welcome back again. Right, this is the final design of our rear suspension. It's been very problematic. Tried lots and lots of different things. Built experiments to try and prove theories and get them crushed and quashed. But never mind, it's all a learning experience. I've learned an awful lot about rear motorcycle suspension in the last week or so. Thank you very much, Pete, for all of that. However, this is our final conclusion, and this is the way that we're going to attempt to do this thing. Now, it's not perfect, but things have moved on a little. I started taking away brackets and things like that, clearing out the back end, and I've bought a shock. Nice looking shock. It's off of a Yamaha R1 2005, adjustable rebound and compression and all of that kind of stuff. And this is pretty much where it is going to mount on the bike. I have to do as much figuring out as we can. The rear suspension has a certain amount of travel, and the shock absorber has a certain amount of travel, so you have to get the ratio between the two correct. And so the way that we've done this is by building it on a piece of wood, always the easiest way, which means for the Beamer has about 125 mils worth of travel on the suspension, and we need a certain amount of travel on the shock. And obviously, depending on your shock, will depend on what the travel is on the shock. On ours, it's around about 47 mil or so, and it happens to be this red line here. So that will be the movement on the shock absorber as this moves 125 mil. This is around about 16.5 millimeters away from the center point of the swinging arm mount here, which is around about there on the bike. The movement of the shock absorber obviously has to be through this plane here, and you can see it's never going to be perfectly straight without a linkage or anything, because there's always going to be a curve to it, but it's not far out. It's pretty good. So as long as we can get our shock moving in that sort of as straight as possible through that plane, it will be okay. And that is almost where it is on the bike there. Like I say, no final measurements yet, but roughly speaking, that's where it is. Biggest problem we have, or we can't overcome, on the Yamaha, it has a linkage system mounted to the shock absorber, which will increase the amount of force acting on the spring as it compresses. So as the swinging arm goes up and down, more force is acting on the spring, which means on this bike, because I don't have that and I can't do it, I've looked at every possible avenue here, and because of space and complication, it's just not worth doing. What it does mean, this bike will be very, very stiff if I use this spring when it's not moving very far, so it won't bounce up and down very, very much when you're stood still and just bouncing up and down on the thing. The way that I'm going to overcome this is I'm going to get a progressive spring to go in on top of the shock absorber. So get rid of the spring that's on there at the minute and get a progressive spring. Now, they are available. You can get them. You can get them made if you can afford it. So we will do this, and it's something that we're gonna worry about that at a later date. We just want to get it mounted first and see if it'll work. Okay, so how are we gonna mount it? Right. Well, we need an element of adjustment here, and I do need an element of adjustment because what I have in mind for the front suspension, I'm gonna have to move around the rear suspension to suit to get the ride height correct. So I I can't just solidly mount this all together. It needs to have, like I say, an element of so I can get some height out of it, or to lower it down a little bit was more likely to be the case. So what the idea here, and this is the final plan, so this is the way that it's going to work. Swinging arm. Down here, swinging arm. We have rear mounts for the old suspension here. On the other side, the shock absorber rear mounting is part of the sort of final drive assembly for light, so I can't do anything with that. That's got to stay where it is, which means I'm going to leave that where it is as well. Although what we will do when you see, I'll change it and we'll make this bracket a bit stronger. How this is going to work then. So here is my swinging arm, here is my rear shock absorber mount. That's where my shock absorber is going to bolt to, going off in that direction. To give me adjustment this way, I can't just weld it all together. So I decided I'm going to put a plate here on the swinging arm at the front, at the same angle as these bars coming up from the shock absorber mounting. I'll put rose joints in here so I can adjust the length of here, and provided that angle is the same and I have a slotted hole here, I will be able to move the whole section forwards and backwards. And what that'll do, it'll change this position forwards and backwards. Now we're not talking a massive amount of adjustment here, because obviously by moving it, it's going to move the distance on there, but we're only talking, I don't know, 15 mil maybe, something like that. So I think it'll work. I don't think we will adjust it out of all sort of where we want it to be too much. But it does mean, so currently the shock absorber's there, say, it means maybe it'll be moved forward ever so slightly, or moved backwards ever so slightly. It makes sense in my head that it's going to work this way. Whether or not it does is a completely different matter, but I think it will look pretty good, and I think it will work. So I've got to go out and get some metal from somewhere, and get my welder back and start welding things together. Really, I think that's the next thing to do. So this is the plan. This is what we're going to make. Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Can't wait. I think the front suspension, when we get to, I don't want to think about the front suspension. The front's going to be even more complicated than the back end. Let's worry about that when we get to it. Let's get the back end finished first. Okay, I'll speak to you again probably in quite a while now, when I've got somewhere with this.